Ladies and gentlemen, we are here. It is a state of an emergency podcast for you guys. But nonetheless, I am Coach Shock. Appreciate you guys for tuning in with us. I see you guys rolling in now, and I couldn't do it alone. I got my guy Landon with me. Landon, how we doing?
Well, we're doing, you know, I mean, it's kind of is what it is. I'm sure we'll tackle everything, here today. But other than that, hey, I woke up today. Everybody's good, having a good week. Everybody's healthy and safe. So that's what really matters. So, yeah, I'm doing okay, man.
It's good to hear that. It's good to hear that. I'm glad you could join me tonight. Tonight, we got to discuss a few things that happened in the AFC South, regardless of the situation. Talk about the Colts first before we get into it, and then we'll get into the nitty gritty, and then we get down to what's really important at the end of the discussion is the Colts. But first, we got to talk about ours first. Shout out, they said let Landon cook. But we gonna let him cook a little bit later. But we gotta get down to the nitty gritty. But first, but because we gotta keep you guys up to post what we got going on. Of course, we mentioned all the signings the last time. The Colts did sign someone back prior to our last episode. Julian Blackman is back with Indianapolis. This was a question we had circulating before everything happened. Of course, we're still talking about Quandre Diggs coming to Indianapolis. We still want a lot of things to happen. Still a lot of talent out there as well, but we got to give our thoughts on Julian Blackman first. Of course, this is a guy we loved. Last season, we think he had the best year, transitioning from the safety spots, and he might have had one of the best seasons of his career last year. Unfortunately, it ended due to injury, but I think he was a dog last year, and we definitely missed him on the field. His presence was felt. What are your thoughts about the Colts bringing back Julian Blackman?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is like a move they had to make because I know I've been pretty on record saying the safety room was my biggest concern for this team. And namely, that was due because Blackman, looked like he was going to go elsewhere. So I thought getting him back was huge. I'd still like to see an upgrade in there. But as far as Blackman being back, I mean, the biggest thing with him, the only thing with him, like being his downfall, has been his health. So, I mean, if you can get him fully, healthy for an entire season, we saw the impact he made last year. Trent, like you said, transitioning from free safety to strong safety. He played fantastic, best year of his career. I think he was one of the better safeties in the league. And yeah, I mean, it was a must-have. So yeah, there you go. Luke knows. Uh, but yeah, man, it was crucial for him, and I'm glad to have him back. Still got some questions, of course, but that makes me feel like I slept a lot better last night thinking about the Colts than I have the last few, weeks. So
Absolutely, yeah, because we about to get it. We about to get down to what happened. Especially today, complete chaos broke amongst the Colts fans. You would think the AFC South in general, but I feel like the Colts fans are the most concerned out of every other fan base. I didn't hear much from Jacksonville. I didn't hear much from Tennessee. I didn't even hear much from Houston. But the Colts happen to be the center of attention once again when it comes to an AFC South team making moves. But before we get into it, we got to talk about, I mean, who got sent there. We got to talk about the guy, Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs is now in the AFC South. We have our history with him, of course, in Buffalo. We played him a few times in Minnesota, but he is now in Buffalo. Let me get your thoughts about, in general, about Stephon Diggs. I'll go first. I think he's a dog. I always loved him coming out of college. I definitely, loved him in the NFL as well. Of course, we remember him from the Minnesota Miracle. But he's a flat out dog. Of course, he's getting up there in age, but I still think he's one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. And he just so happens to be in the AFC South now. But what are your thoughts on Stephon Diggs?
yeah, well, I mean, there's the obvious question marks of like, you know, has he outstayed his welcome at two different organizations? There's a reason he was on the market. If you look at the analytics, you would see last year, from weeks 10 through 18, he was this ranked at this or this ranked at this, and he's not really that good because that's what we do, right? Whenever another team makes a move, especially in our division, they're not that good because we did it with Snead. He never made an All Pro. He's never made a Pro Bowl. He's not good. So like now, Stephon Diggs, if you look at weeks 10 through 18 last year, the analytics say he was not that good. He's going to be 31 in November. He's outstayed. Look, the dude's a baller. The dude goes out there and he produces on the football field. He's good for 1,000 yards. He's good from anywhere from 8 to 14 touchdowns a year. He's a good football player. And everybody's thinking, well, he's not going to be this dynamic number one guy. He doesn't have to be. He doesn't have to be. So I mean, like that's the thing is like he's at the point now to where he's got Nico Collins, Tank Dell's coming back. You know, like he's not going to be out there asked to be. You know, oh come on, he doesn't even. You know, he's able to be a member of a wide receiver unit. Like, there's just no way to me you can convince me that adding Stephon Diggs to the Houston Texans does not make them a better football team, at least in the short term. And that's really all this is, because it's really like you can say, oh, well, like the contract and the risk. They have an out after next year. They can cut him without hardly any consequences after next season if it doesn't work out. Like this was, I think it was a genius move by the Texans. I think it was a really good deal for them, and they're doing everything in their power to help CJ Stroud take that next step going into his second season. And that's what they should do.
I agree 100%. It's definitely one of the moves. Like when I seen it, I said, "Oh gosh." I seen Stephon Diggs, and I was like, "Ooh, breaking news!" And then I seen the Houston Texans. I was like, "You got to be kidding me!" Like they've been making moves all off season, and the draft isn't even here yet. But
In what
I
world is Stephon Diggs not a good football player? Like,
right.
what are we doing?
Yeah, he is a good football player, but you know me, I'm on the I gotta see it first to believe it. I had the same thing with the Jaguars when they made all these moves, even last year when they got the Kirk deal done, and it didn't amount to anything. They still lost the division, so I'm on the,
They
the
won the
on the
division
same
the year
verge of
before
seeing that.
that.
Huh?
They won the division the year before that and went to the playoffs.
That is
And
correct.
then Trevor Lawrence got hurt, but they were winning the division last year before Lawrence went down.
That's
I
true.
mean, like they've had more success than the Colts have had.
They have, but I mean, I'm excited for Houston. I'm not one of those guys, just because I'm a Colts fan, I'm all boo Houston and everything. I'm all excited because we've been excited since Stroud got drafted. We went to the draft and we seen it, Stroud and Richardson talk. We even seen Bryce, and we were like, the AFC South is going to be very competitive for the years to come. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they got going on. I mean, I hope it pays off. Like I tweeted about it. They got the roster. They're pretty much going all in. So hopefully it pays off. But we're gonna see at the end of the day. I do think it's a good move. Would I think it's gonna amount to anything? Maybe not. Like I said, Nico Collins probably had one of the best years last year. Adding another wide receiver in the fray, like a guy like Stephon Diggs coming from Buffalo. They didn't pretty much, they couldn't get it done, so they wound up getting removing him from the picture to Houston. Hopefully, it's not any friction. This is the first year they got to build that chemistry, so it might be an up and down season, but I still think it might amount to a winning season at the end of the day. Don't know how it's going to plan out, but we're going to see how that goes. But let's go ahead and hop into the chat a little bit. We got Derek joining us in a little bit. He's gonna talk about the Indianapolis Colts. That's pretty much the topic of discussion because all Colts fans pretty much are sharing their opinion about the Ballard situation and then Diggs. So I would love to get his point as well. He said, does he still want to be the number one and get a bunch of targets? I agree he could be wide receiver 3, but he made a fit for not getting targets in Buffalo, even though he did it. I agree. So it might be a long time before we beat the Texans at NRG. I mean, we gave him a run last year. And this was with a backup quarterback. Even when Richardson was out there, we was giving him fits. So I don't know. Man. You know me. I'm a Colts. I might be a little biased sometimes. I mean, you can even ask Landon. When we had the season predictions last year, I think I had the most wins out of all of us coming in. But
You were
I'm,
right. You were right.
I'm just
I
saying,
mean,
I'm a little biased. So sometimes I'll be right, sometimes I'm wrong, but it's a 50-50 chance. But we have been giving them fits. We won 9 wins. We won 9 games with a backup quarterback, putting Richardson back in the mix, especially at a healthy, starting off 0-0. Anything's possible. That's the best thing I could say. Fast because got to be the
that's a
worst
good way
team
to
in the
put
AFC
it.
South.
Anything's possible.
Anything's possible. Every year, we just seen the Detroit Lions go with Jared Goff. As far as they went. So I'm like, I'm going all in, man. I'm going all in. Diggs is gonna be messing up Stroud's development. Watch the locker room. Dang, that's crazy. That's crazy. Training. Why would it? I don't know, man. I don't know. That is the question that everybody is asking. What the heck is Buffalo doing? Maybe they trying to take the same route Minnesota did. Minnesota got rid of Diggs, sent them to Buffalo, and got Justin Jefferson in return. So we don't know. We don't know what they're doing. We don't know. But we're gonna wish them the best of luck. What's going on? How you doing? Shout out to Bring the Juice in the chat. Appreciate you. Uh, Culture Doomed. Okay. What's going on, Horse Talk? How you doing? Only chance to compete. Yeah, we got it. We got it. We about to hop into the Colts right now. What's the break point? You need to find this team. What's going on, Charles? How you doing? All right, let's go ahead and hop into the Colts now. It's time. It's time to hop into the Colts. Let's go ahead and hop into it. I'm about to send the link. But the Colts. Now that we just got past the Houston Texans, going in the right direction. They're going all in. It is a very, very good leap of faith. I'm not gonna lie, it's a good leap of faith. But when you put your chips on the table very early, especially only being in year two for Stroud, you gotta really think that it's going to be that year. I mean, all of these guys are rentals, so I mean, it's going to be a huge risk. If they do it and they win, congratulations. If they do it and lose, I don't know. It's kind of weird. What's your thoughts on that? Of them going all in Stroud's second year?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with it. I don't have an issue with a team doing whatever they can to get better. And like you said, we don't know how it's going to play out. It could play out fantastic. They could crash and burn. That's the thing. Like these deals are only like they have a 2-year deal with Hunter. They have a 1-year deal with an out with Diggs. So like if this doesn't work out next year, like what long-term effects are there? Like it's not like they're like crashing themselves for the next like 5, 6, 7 years. Like they hit the quarterback. They hit on the quarterback. So we know Stroud can play at a high level. So now, how can we help him take the next step? And how can we also raise the floor of this team? You go out and you get proven players that have done this at an elite level, and that's what they did. So I don't understand the whole well, it might not work. I mean, it might not, but I mean, at least you tried, Like that's the thing. Like, what's the Michael Jordan quote? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Love that quote.
So like everybody's all sitting here. It's like, well, it might not work. It might work. Has anybody ever thought about the fact that it might work? And if it does work, what happens? They're probably a Super Bowl contender. I mean, not in the AFC because the Chiefs are the Chiefs. Like you're not going to win the AFC, but at least you're trying, and that's really what this league is all about. Like it's not like they've absolutely destroyed their cap for like the next few years. Like all these signings and deals, like it's like a 1 to 2 year window they're trying to do before they, probably re-up Stroud after, going into year 4, I would imagine. And at that point, it's just you're playing on the same level field. But why not take advantage of? Why not take the swings while you can? Like you have such an advantage right now. You have a franchise quarterback on a rookie deal. Like take the swings now's the time to do it.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely a huge risk. That's what I was thinking as well. After all of this, I'm about to add you in and get your thoughts on the whole deal situation. But I was gonna say, you know, it's a risky situation putting your chips in on free agents to start this all-in caliber thing, but it's also a risk of putting your chips on Anthony Richardson coming in off an injury. So it's like, which risk is bigger? I don't think there is a bigger risk in either situation. It's just more so of building around Richardson in general.
Yeah, and like it's not even to me, like it's not even necessarily like the risk as far as like, like Anthony. I mean, like yes, that's a risk, but like that's a risk you're willing to take. To me, it's much more of a bigger risk, like constantly relying on guys that have not played at a high level or that have been, injured multiple times. Like if you're just going to run it back, like that's just as much of a risk to me. It's like, are you? Is everybody going to stay healthy? No, it's the NFL. Are all three of these dudes going to take this big leap and be elite, Pro Bowl caliber players? History says probably not, so you're probably going to have a weak link somewhere. So like, I don't understand this whole like, it's just so risky. Like, it's just too big of a risk to take. Like, it's just as big of a risk not doing anything as it is actually trying to do something. But at
Right.
least if you're trying, you can say you tried.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Let's go ahead and bring another guest in. Shout out to Derek. Bring the juice. Derek, how we doing tonight?
What's going on, boys? Long time no talk.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. How are
Well,
you?
What's up, man? I'm good. Just another day of Colts Nation losing their freaking minds over another player going to a team that the Colts had no interest in getting. So, life is good.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So let's get your thoughts really quick before we get into the real situation regarding Anthony Richardson and the Colts, future wise. What was your reactions to Stephon Diggs going to Houston?
Well, it was funny because I got a text from my brother at work, and he was like, "Well, the Colts ain't winning the division this year," and I was like, "Oh my god, what happened?" And then, sure enough, saw that the Texans signed Diggs, and I was like, "Man, that stinks," because lucky Stephon Diggs going from one quarterback that's really good to another one that's almost as good, probably even better when it comes to actually throwing the football. So, it's a fantastic situation for Stephon Diggs. It's a fantastic situation for the Houston Texans. I mean, you now have two legit number one guys on your team. Tank Dell's a very capable wide receiver too, as well. So, you might honestly have the best trio of wide receivers now in the NFL. It might actually put the money where the mouth is when it comes to the Bengals for how good it is. It's a great situation for Houston. And I was just as I tuned into your stream while I was waiting, I heard what you said about them. Like, they're basically rental guys, right?
Mhm.
Like every single big name free agent that they brought in, right? Daniel Hunter, not even necessarily Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon can last a few years. But Stephon Diggs, a few other guys that they brought in the secondary, even Danico Autry. Like some of these guys, they're all rentals. You're right. They're guys that are going to be there for a year, maybe 2 years, at most three. So your window starts now if you're the Houston Texans. If you don't, it's not like once those guys leave, their window is forever closed. I would not say that at all, because as long as you have a top 10 quarterback in CJ Stroud, you will always have a chance to be able to make it happen. But this is the best opportunity they're going to have for a while. So you're right. This is it. If they don't win it, it's definitely going to be a bummer because they're investing a ton of money and a ton of other things into it to try to, win now, basically.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the Colts. Now, the Colts fans have been on a tear. It's pretty much Cohen at Landon as well. I'm at work, I'm at work minding my business as usual. I get notifications just to check in on my guys, man, and I see Landon catching strays from left to right. I'm like, it's entertaining for me, but I'm like, come on, give him some slack. Y'all got to see his point, right? We see everybody else's point when they talk
No, you
about.
ain't gotta give me no slack. I
Ain't
don't
gonna
need
get you no
slack.
Landon,
slack.
you got to learn when to weave and dodge with the trolls, man.
I
They're
don't.
out in full swing right
I
now.
don't care. This is my Twitter. This is like look. Acknowledge me. Acknowledge me.
Since you at that point, it's showtime, Dex. We can sit back, let Landon speak his piece, ladies and gentlemen. Get your popcorn ready. It's time for the gospel of Landon. Landon, we are all ears. You have the floor. Preach the gospel, and we got your response when you're done.
I mean, where you want me to start? That's the thing. Like, I mean,
We
like,
we
I
got
don't.
we got to start with the Richardson take. Richardson next season. Talk about Ballard putting all his chips in on Richardson and how big of a risk it is. We can start there.
Well, I mean, like, I don't necessarily think it's it's like a risk because like it all starts with the quarterback. Like I get that. And I've always disagreed. Like whenever he came out, this is the funniest thing to me. So he comes out during the Andrew Luck press conference, right? First press conference when he gets hired on. No, Jesse, you will acknowledge me. And what's the first thing he says? He's like, it's not about one guy, right? He says that. Like to quote, it's never about one guy. It's not about one guy. So what's he do this year? He runs
All
back
about one
the same
guy.
team, and it's all about one guy.
Yep. it's a load of shit, isn't it?
Like I mean, like, and to be fair, I agree with the latter part. It is all about one guy. I disagreed at the first part. Like it is all about the quarterback. But don't piss down my back and tell me it's raining. Like don't do this whole like, well, I'm gonna say this and then do this. Like, I mean, every team in the AFC South that we all love to make fun of, right? That's what we do as Colts fans. We make fun of them. And they have all provided weapons in good, better situations for their quarterback. And I'm not saying Richardson has a bad situation at all. He doesn't. Great offensive line. Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman. Like, I mean, he doesn't have a bad situation at all.
Right.
But I mean, it could be better. Like, I mean, like, are we going to feel comfortable rolling Alec Pierce out there again at wide receiver? Like, I'm not. I don't know about you. I'm not. And I mean, I know, like, that doesn't play well on a spreadsheet in Microsoft Excel, but in the real football world where players play on the field, he hasn't done enough. And so we'll see what happens. My biggest problem, it's not even like the Anthony Richardson stuff, because I do agree it is all about Anthony Richardson.
Let's hop into that free agency convo.
My biggest problem, and it's not even about the free agency thing. My biggest problem is, when did we, as a group of people, start to value, and like I went in on this tangent today because this is where you were saying people catching strays left and right? When did we get in to this mode of thinking that results do not matter? Like, what are we doing? Like, the process is more important than the results. The Houston Texans aren't better than the Indianapolis Colts because the Colts have a better point differential in the last few years. Like, the Colts won, technically, they have a better point differential and outscored the Texans. Meanwhile, when the Texans have 3 division championships and 2 playoff wins since 2017, but the Colts are a better team since 2017. Why are we like somebody commented on one of my things today and said, that's okay. You can live, like, you can do your evaluation off wins, losses, and titles. That's what you're entitled to. What?
What else is there?
What matters? Like, yes, I will do my evaluations off wins, losses, and titles, because at the end of the day, that's the only thing anybody cares about. Like, I don't care if you look good on an Excel spreadsheet. I don't care if you look good at the combine or what your RAS is. I don't care. Does it translate? Does your process, because that's the buzzword of the day, the process. Does your process yield results? And if your process has not yielded results, then guess what? It's time to change the process. Maybe because I can't go to work and not get results. If I go to work and I'm not producing results, do you think I get to go to my boss's office and say, like, oh, well, like, I had a good process. I know, like, I wasn't really doing any work, but the process was there. What do you think is going to happen to me? I'm going to lose my job, or I'm going to get reprimanded, one of the two. Like, results are king in any business, more like especially in the NFL. If you do not produce results, unless for some reason your name is Chris Ballard, if you do not produce results, guess what happens? You lose your job. You know how many guys at that position survived the Carson Wentz deal? Not many. And then you add on the Matt Ryan thing on top of that. Like we're in uncharted territory for a GM making that many mistakes, not winning the division, having all this. Yeah, exactly. Trust the process. No, I'm not trusting the process. Like
We
I need
like our guys, Landon. We
yeah,
like our guys.
if you want me to trust the process, if you do, you show me the results. And right now we have not gotten the results. So my thing is not necessarily that I hate Chris Ballard because if anything, I've actually been more of a defender of Chris Ballard than anything. I see what he is trying to do. I see the vision. I get it. But at some point, you have to quit telling people we just need to be patient. We're going into 8 years. Patience is done. Like there's no patience. And I mean, if this is what your grand vision is, if Anthony Richardson plays every game next year. And like I bookmarked all day. If Anthony Richardson plays all games next season, he's completely healthy, and the Colts do not win the division and or make the playoffs, what is the excuse? What's the excuse going to be? Because that's all I heard today is if, the word if. That's the other
If in
buzzword of the day.
process, yes.
If. Well, if Anthony Richardson was healthy, we would have won the division. If the Colts, caught that fourth down pass, we would have won the division. Well, guess what? If ifs and buts were candy and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas. Because that's not reality. It like you don't like I don't live in a world of ifs. Okay. Like this is what actually happened. This is factual. And if you want to operate in some fantasy world where all this other stuff happened, where Chris Ballard has won multiple division titles, and this team has been one of the best teams of the last few years, and if the Colts, Gardner Minshew caught, that pass, through the pass, and we converted that fourth down. If you want to live in that world where your ifs are what matters, that's perfectly fine. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to live in the real world where results matter. And I'm done sitting here saying that, just be patient next year, next year, next year. No, now, this is what you've stamped as your team. This is your process. You are going and you're saying, hey, run it back. We believe Anthony Richardson is the key to get us to being a contender. So if everything works out, Anthony Richardson, God love him, I believe in him probably just more than anybody you know. If he plays every game next year, is fully healthy, and they do not make the playoffs, what's the excuse? What do we say?
But look, this is segue into our next topic, talking about Richardson and the Colts next season. We see the AFC South, how it transpired. We see Snead in Tennessee. We see the Jaguars. They still going to have I'm pretty sure they're going to have a good draft. They loaded up on defense as well. They got Lawrence coming back. And now we see the Houston Texans with Stroud and, Stephon Diggs and this defense and those Gunners. The Colts are in the same position with bringing their guys back, and now they have Anthony Richardson coming back as well. So I want to get your guys' thoughts on how the Colts may look next season. I know it's an early prediction, but we can change it up as the season goes by. I know we're going to do that anyway. But I'll go ahead and start. I'm a believer. I'm very biased. Take it with a grain of salt. Landon knows this very dearly. Derek may know as well. But when I know that this team, what they did last year, we just got Gardner Minshew paid to go to Vegas. This team was one of the best offenses in the NFL. Coach of the year potential in Shane Steichen, Gardner Minshew. He did what he could, and we were 9 wins and almost 10 wins. We was 1 win short of winning the division, and you're doing all of this without Anthony Richardson. You got Anthony Richardson coming back in the fray. Jonathan Taylor had his controversy at the beginning of the season, but he's coming back full strength next year. You got Michael Pittman Jr. on his contract. I think this offense has potential to go even better than what we had last year. And then when you look at the draft stakes and how the spots we are in the draft, we're in a good position of doing that. I think this team can be very underrated going into this year, and I think they can do better than what we're expecting. So of course, I do think we have potential to be even the second spot in the AFC South, or pretty much fighting for the first spot like we did last year. I think we're in the same position, but even better because we have a dual threat quarterback, and he's going to be pairing with Jonathan Taylor, what we should have been doing last season. So I think all grades off the board. But Derek, let me get your potential sakes. How do you think the Colts right now? How do they fit going into next year, going up against this AFC South?
Well, I'll hop into the argument of what Landon said in his last little bit there, where again, like if we're putting all the emphasis that the Indianapolis Colts can run this team back and say this team is good enough to win and make it to the playoffs with Anthony Richardson fully healthy. So what we're insinuating is that if the Colts don't make the playoffs then with Anthony Richardson, then that is grounds for removing Chris Ballard from office at that point as the GM of the Indianapolis Colts, because you put it out there that said, I am a firm believer that the only thing this team needs is Anthony Richardson to be out there to be able to make this team competitive enough to make sure that we get it going. And that's what I'm getting from this. And there's a couple other things that I can mention from it as well when talking about the difference between what the Texans are doing with Stroud versus what the Colts are doing with Anthony Richardson. We can go back to it. But as far as Anthony Richardson with the Indianapolis Colts now, I totally agree with you, Marcus, that the Indianapolis Colts offense will be better next year with Anthony Richardson. They have to be, because even if Anthony Richardson is not as accurate of a quarterback as Gardner Minshew, we saw how limited the offense was with Gardner Minshew at the helm. He didn't want to push the ball down the field consistently, whether that was because he didn't see people or he was afraid to, or he just simply didn't understand the system. He just flat out didn't make a ton of throws down the field that could have been happening. So that's the issue. And then we saw with the run game with the Indianapolis Colts, when Anthony Richardson was out there with Zach Moss, it made the run game much better because teams had to respect Anthony Richardson's ability to move. So no doubt this could be a top 10 offense next year. I'm pretty positive it will be, even if there's virtually nothing else done to it. Anthony Richardson, if he stays healthy, can make this offense a top 10 offense, no question. Now, the only problem is you haven't done anything to your defense. You ain't done nothing. And you were the 28th ranked defense last year. And albeit some of the stats are okay, we're about average in some of these stats, but as Landon said very early in his part, that's a lot of pressure to put on a rookie quarterback to have to make up for the lack of talent on the defensive side when you shouldn't have to do that. You shouldn't have to do that. So I actually just was on stream and I just did a record prediction. I still see 10 wins. Very, very plausible. Because, there's a couple teams that have gotten worse over the offseason as well when this schedule came out. The Bills are one of them. Denver's definitely not great right now. Minnesota got worse with losing Kirk. There's a couple of these teams that are falling off. So I think Indy definitely has a good chance. But, if we're standing right now, I don't believe there is a way that the Indianapolis Colts win the division. I truly don't, because, if the Texans won it last year, and hell, let's be honest, they shouldn't have won it last year. And not even because the Colts blew it, but because the Jaguars lost their quarterback for the final 5 weeks of the season. He was about 50%. And they just kept losing every game because they couldn't get consistent play out of Trevor Lawrence because he was getting a new injury every week. So that shouldn't have happened in the first place. The Jaguars blew it. They should have won the division, but they blew it. So we are third in this division right now, fully. I don't even care what the rankings or anything else says. We are third in this division right now. And Chris Ballard, to this moment, has basically just said this team's good enough with a healthy Anthony Richardson to make up the difference. And I really hope that's it. And I truly believe that if Anthony Richardson plays a full 17 games and has the season that I think he can have, I totally believe he has the potential to do that. But that's a big if. And we shouldn't be playing the if game right now when you have a rookie quarterback that you supposedly have so much faith in.
Amen, man. Like I said, I'm looking forward to next year, and this stuff like this, being under the radar. A lot of people forget about them. I'm looking forward to it for sure. Landon, what's your thoughts about the Colts going up against the AFC South next year? I know you mentioned it early on social media, but
yeah. Well, first off, let's see Basil 4241 here.
Yeah, I ignore it. Don't even worry about it.
Yeah, running his mouth. So I'm just gonna.
He came over from my stream. He was talking a lot of crap to me.
Yeah, well, that's okay.
So it's all good.
So Jabroni, first thing you need to know is you need to know your role over there in the comment section. So you can keep that stuff to yourself. That being said, as far as the Colts go, here's the other thing of the equation that people just love to leave out. On paper, last year, the Colts had the easiest schedule almost in the NFL last year. That helps. It's not going to be that way this year. On paper, this schedule is much more difficult. The division, much more difficult. That's not even counting how many other starting quarterbacks were out in the AFC last year. Aaron Rodgers, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, just to name a few. Then you got Trevor Lawrence coming back, as Derek mentioned down there. Like this isn't just some easy thing where it's like, we can just take the they won 9 wins. They're a shoe-in. It's last year is not this year. They're going to have to improve. I think they're going to end up in a very similar situation. I think even if they do improve, I don't think they've done enough. And I don't, as much as I love Richardson, this is basically like his rookie year. Like he's coming in, he's going to need a lot of reps. There's going to be a lot of new things he sees live. Everything's different from film as opposed to when the bullets are flying. So there's going to be a lot of new things he sees. It might not get it might not get this hot start where I'm sorry, I'm reading the comments, it's funny. It might not get to the point where we're 5, 6, 7 weeks in and like everything's fully clicking. So I think with the improvement in the schedule, I do think this Colts team will improve. I do think this will be a better team than last year. I do agree. That being said, I just think the improvements around the league, healthy quarterbacks, the vision on paper improving, because this is all we can go off of, right, is on paper. I think they're in a similar spot. I think they win 8, 9 games, miss the wild card spot, miss the playoffs, and then we're sitting here next year, having the same conversation.
Landon, if they don't win more games this next year, is that grounds to say that Ballard deserves to be fired? I know a lot of people are saying that like his job is going to be dependent on what Anthony Richardson does throughout this contract. But I mean, do you think he even makes it out of Anthony Richardson's contract if the Indianapolis Colts do not end up improving enough to make people say, oh, this team actually is going to improve?
I think even if they miss the playoffs, I don't think he's getting fired. I think he's got till at least next year. I think after 2025, that's probably where you're looking at, him moving on. But that snoring, that's my dog, actually. So my dog is right beside me. He's the one that's snoring.
Oh, good. I can't even hear nothing.
Which is understandable because
I heard it at the last second. I wasn't even...
Well, like it was okay, but then he started reading Basil Shardy's comments down there, and he fell asleep. I'm sorry, Luke. Chill out, dude. But yeah, I think he's at least you're good until 2025, and then after that, I think that's when you see a change. But I mean, it's tough. Like, how do you if they don't win this year, if they don't make the playoffs this year, how do you sell, unless, there's this major change of philosophy, which we have yet to see. Um, in 2025, maybe they see like Richardson is the guy, and maybe next year that's when the Colts have, this push to go all in on the final, 2-3 years of Richardson's rookie deal. Um, so that's kind of the hope, but am I anti-Richardson? Where have you been? Yeah, you clearly knew over here, but yeah, it's tough. It's tough because I don't know how. Like, if they don't win this year, they continue to do the same things they've been doing after this season. If they don't win, how do you sell that to the fan base? Like, how do you sell? Like I said, results matter, and until we see results, that's what we have to go off of.
Yeah, all I can say is that I trust it. I trust the process. I know you guys hate saying that in the Philly style. I do trust it because I enjoyed last season's draft. I really did. I like the potential I seen this year. Like I said, this was an evaluation season anyway, so I wasn't really going off of, oh, we're going to win the division or we're going to make the playoffs. I wanted to evaluate the talent to see what we got, and we build from that. Of course, they didn't make any moves in free agency, but that is okay. The last time we made a move at the end of the season, we got Stephon Gilmore, and that was pretty late. And there's still a lot of talent out there to go get something. And the longer you wait, the cheaper the contracts come. So I still have the faith and potential of what they can do. I do like it. I'm excited to see Brents come back next season. I'm excited to see what he do. Jalen Jones, all of these guys, and Julian Blackman coming back. I still have faith to see what we got going on. But to get rid of Ballard after this year to see what happens, I'm not so sold on that. Like I said, I still think we still have potential to do what we can do. The division is still in play. Everybody has a 0-0 record. You do not win games in the offseason. So I do still have the utmost faith in that. I know you guys are seeing Ballard is trash. What games are y'all looking forward to this year? Especially week one. I'm looking forward to week one just like every other year. I know we still have a terrible record in week one, but the sky's the limit, baby. The sky is the limit. The sky is the limit. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got right now at the moment. Um, Anything else you wanted to add, Derek, before I get up out of here?
I don't know, man. Like I'm trying to be one of those people that like keeps an even keel of all this. I mean, I'm one of those guys that is going to support this team one way or the other, and I have a lot of faith in the players because they're not the reason that this team is where it's at. It's the GM that puts this team together, and look, I get it. There's plenty of opportunities there. We did not expect to be in the position we were in last year either. But, again, it says a lot for a GM to say that they feel that they feel that Anthony Richardson is the difference maker, but yet does virtually nothing to improve the roster. Like, I think that says a lot. I mean, the Houston Texans believe in CJ Stroud, and we see that because they went out and boosted their roster with an insane amount of talent. Whether or not they're rental pieces or not, they are a better team right now than what they were as they ended the season. The Indianapolis Colts are not. They're pretty much the same team, if not potentially worse. There's at that you have that point of it, and who knows how Anthony Richardson is going to be. But I think it sells the idea that Chris Ballard is not wanting to throw all of his eggs into one basket. I know they had a bunch of guys that are going to want to that they needed to bring back. I totally get that. That's how you keep your team from falling off the face of the earth, is bringing your own guys back that are productive. But the problem with that is you're falling behind these other teams that are going off and doing these things. And you don't have, I mean, and the Colts had opportunities to open up cap space and be able to go and get these other guys, throw money out there, whatever. They had opportunities, but Ballard just didn't want to take them. And at the end of the day, it's gonna really hurt this team that 1 year down the line, 2 years down the line, when some of your best players that you have on this roster are aging and they're not getting younger and they're going to continue to start aging, and then they're not going to be as efficient anymore. And then when you lose your best players because you were willing to wait 2-3 years before you actually decided to actually do something with a rookie quarterback that you said is going to be generational and you have so much faith in, you're playing both sides to it right now, Ballard, and it's not flying with anyone. Regardless of whether or not you're optimistic or you're not optimistic with it, the approach just makes no sense because it's so contradictory on a million different levels. And Landon mentioned it as well. It's never about one guy. Well, it is about one guy. You're putting all your eggs into one basket with Anthony Richardson. And if Anthony Richardson doesn't pan out the way we hope he does and actually stays healthy, then we're screwed. We're screwed. We're not going to get anywhere. And it's just another season of, oh, well, I guess the experiment failed. That's pretty much where we would be at. So I hate sounding like a Debbie Downer because I don't want to be that way. I've been one of the biggest Ballard apologists, as they call it, ever since. But like this year, I can't sit by and idly think about it unless the Indianapolis Colts get another really good safety or corner to help this secondary and then go balls to the wall in the draft. I can't sit there and say that I support what Ballard is doing right now. I just can't.
I do like the continuity and the consistency, amongst the Colts of what they got going on. Keeping the same players here. You know, and it's amazing. I was about to let Landon go, but I always think about, the ballot pressers. He gives us a rundown of his process of what he does in the offseason every time they ask him. And Colts fans act so shocked every year when nothing happens. And it's amazing. Like, if we can go back to each presser, he tells us his process of why he doesn't go
Yeah.
throwing out the bag.
Can I interrupt you real quick with that?
Go ahead.
And then in those same pressers in January, what do we hear?
Yeah.
That's on me. I didn't do enough.
Exactly. But
It's the
the,
same
the, the
BS
reality of
version
everyone
of
being shocked of why it doesn't happen is like we don't watch them. That's the part that gets me and makes me laugh. Because even in the chats, when we're in the chats, I'm like, why are we so surprised? Why are we so surprised every year? He says it every time. It's, we do this. I'm not throwing the money at guys. They might not fit the scheme, or they come in here with the personalities, and then when he doesn't do it, he apologizes. It's a revolving door every year. So I'm never surprised how the offseason turns out. I just look forward to the guys that we got, the potential that we got, and to see who's going to, be the next guy to jump off the scene. We've seen it with EJ Speed. We've seen it with Zaire Franklin. We've seen Juju come in his first debut game, have a good game. We've seen Jalen Jones, a guy who shined in the offseason and shined in the regular year. That's what I'm here for. I'm here for the guys that's going to step up, that's not being talked about, that's going to have the potential to do those things. Even in the draft, when we went to the draft and we seen all those names get drafted, we seen Josh Downs get drafted, and you seen Reggie Wayne rave that he might be the best wide receiver in the draft. What did he do? He came in on the scene, even with Gardner Minshew, and was the best, arguably the best wide receiver all year, besides Michael Pittman Jr., of course. So that's what I want to see. That's what I'm looking forward to this year in this offseason and after the draft. So that's what I want to see. And we still got players that, missed the whole year that's coming back next season. I'm looking forward to seeing that as well. So, you guys got to keep the faith, seeing the guys that's going to get potential. And not just rave. Not just rave every time something that's going to happen. We can't get every big name. It's two sides to a contract. It's two sides.
Yeah,
and I'm not willing to, yeah.
I was gonna say, to me, it's not necessarily like the big names. Like, I don't care about Stephon Diggs, like the Colts. Like, I don't care about the names of the guys. It's more of just like the lack of trying. I think that like bothers me is like, like there's guys. well, I can't even say it was really lack of because they did try on a few
Right.
guys. Right?
Yeah, on
Okay.
Daniel
I'm
Hunter.
glad
That
you
was
fixed
one
it.
that
They
we
like they,
did.
they did throw an offer, but
I
they
mean,
just didn't like. That's it.
yeah, but I mean, like, there's still other avenues, you can go through, and like, there's still players out there, and we're still early in the process. I get that,
Mhm.
but it just bothers me consistently seeing the same approach every year,
Right.
Because it's not done us anything.
yeah,
It's
that's what
not
I'm
done us
saying,
anything.
and
And Anthony
it's not
Richardson might be
providing
the
results.
exception, but we haven't gotten better. We have never gotten anywhere with Ballard. It's always the same. It's we barely make the playoffs and we're a round one exit every time. It's the same
I
story.
mean, I would love to barely make the playoffs.
I would like to,
Making the
like I
playoffs.
said,
I mean, but the problem is we don't make it consistently. And I know that Andrew Luck put a ton of strain on that. I get it. For the first couple of years, that was really hard to go off of. But I mean, we've had a lot of issues with some positions that Ballard just cannot draft or free agent hit. And it's a lot of the big key positions. And who knows if quarterback's going to be another one of them? Who knows? Anthony Richardson's going to be the telltale sign of this because the Indianapolis Colts could have made a lot of things happen, but they didn't. And again, as I mentioned from before, it's just all about like we're always in the same position. It doesn't get better. It's the same process, but yet this year, the least active free agency that we have seen in the Chris Ballard era. And we always say that Chris Ballard is not active in free agency. And this is the least active he has been. So
I don't know about least act. I mean,
I
like,
said thank you for bringing all the guys back. I think that has
yeah,
something to do with
we
being
signing
active.
guys is
that
still being
aspect
Yeah.
of it, but I mean, just in form of just trying to bring in other guys outside of this team's format because
other
there's
things to
safety
like
help that's
supplement
needed,
other
corner
positions.
help.
Yeah,
We know that and number one edge guy is still a need. You need great wide receiver help to help with Anthony Richardson. Outside of Michael Pittman, you can't just rely on the one. And I know Josh Downs is still a rookie. It's just relying on too much for young guys to have to deal with. I understand the continuity argument. I totally get it. But that results in you having learning struggles.
That most Colts fans don't have patience. Bro, it's year 8.
It's the patience argument.
How patient do you want people to be? This team has not won a division title in 10 years. That's a decade. Like, how patient do you want people to be?
I mean,
eventually results have to matter. They have to. So
it
that's
has
why
to matter.
I'm giving Ballard this year. Like, I even put it out there earlier. I see what he's trying to do. I don't agree with it, but I see it, and I see the good of it. I really do. Continuity is a big thing. Young guys coming back and improving is a good thing. Getting guys back healthy is a good thing. I get all of that. I just think it's a really risky proposition, and we've went through the same process years and years and years and years. How many years? Years and 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 years in a row. And we'll see. So, like I said,
I would say it's not the end of the world. Let's all breathe, relax.
None of this is the end of the world. It's not real. It's not the real world. It's football.
It's not the real world. It's football. We do not, like you said before, we do not play for the team. They don't pay the bills, right?
Yeah, I think it doesn't matter.
And at the end of the day, I just want you guys to think there's other teams out there that are in a way worse position than we are. We haven't won in decades, but there's some teams that haven't won in centuries almost. Like there's fans that's 90 years old that's never seen the playoffs, never seen a Super Bowl. So I would say take it with a grain of salt and be patient. Some teams don't have a franchise quarterback. We were in that position at once. So I would say there's some things that we could, that we could just calm down on and just let it play out. Of course, we all want to win the division. We want to see the Super Bowl. We want to see the playoffs. But just take it day by day. It's going to happen at the end of the day. It's going to be and at the end of the day, if you happen to leave the fan base, I want you to understand there are some people that probably will not care that you leave.
Nah,
But the real ones are going to stay. That's all that matters. The real ones
too
are
much,
going to
too
stay.
much money invested in this team to leave.
Exactly. So either you deal with it or you don't. That's the best I could tell you.
Yeah, it'll all be okay. We'll see how it
It'll all
goes.
be okay. It's
Yeah,
going to
well,
be
I mean, we'll
okay.
see how it goes. But like I'm saying, I'm giving them this year. I'm gonna see how things play out. Hopefully, they play out good. Hopefully, Marcus's prediction is great. 14-3. Whoever had that prediction, I hope that's what actually happens. I really do. Um, so we'll see.
I'm going to bang that anvil next year, man. The most positive fan is right again.
I hope
So
you are. I
I hope
really
I
do.
am too, man. So go get me some Grover wings if I win this bet. But that's pretty much all I got for you guys. Any last words before I get out? Sign
Nah,
Quandre Diggs. I heard that. Who said that? Oh, that was me. My bad.
just ready to, I'm
I
ready to
thought that
eat
was one of
dinner.
y'all. Huh?
So I'm just ready to eat my dinner. I've got it sitting here
Yeah.
right in front of me.
Oh yeah, man. You gotta go ahead and eat, man. But I
Got
appreciate
X-Men
you guys.
'97.
Yes, sir. It's man. Look, the draft is here, man. The draft is right around the corner. I can't wait for the draft. I'm looking
Brock
forward to
Bowers
it.
to Indy, baby.
Brock Bowers, the Indy.
You
Who
have
you
to
got,
win.
Landon? I heard Bowers. Who you got?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, now looking at the, you know, shoehorned yourself in the need.
Something.
You need you done made it to where you need a cornerback so bad.
Am
Quinion
I gonna be
Mitchell.
live for draft? We gonna see, man. We gonna see. I'll let y'all know for sure. But I appreciate you for standing up. Keep them noties on. I'll let you know everything. Said Rizzy Parcell. That is a fire nickname. Said we're almost forced to take a corner at 15. But you guys stay tuned. Appreciate Bring the Juice for stopping by. Shout out to Derek. Shout out to Lana for stopping by as well. Appreciate you guys. Spread the peace and positivity. It is not the end of the world. This team is good on paper. When Diggs find out that he has to be matched up against either Jalen or
Against
Juju
Jalen
Brents
Jones.
he will not be happy. He will not be a happy camper because he has never seen this 2 times a year. He don't know what it's like. He was out there in one of the worst divisions last year, having it up. But now he going up against the Jaguars. He's going up against the Titans with Snead, and he got to go up against the Colts. This ain't the AFC East, baby. It's real down here in the AFC South. So you either get ready or get lost. That's all I can say.
Word I never thought I would hear.
This is not the AFC East.
It's real down here in the AFC South.
Yeah, it ain't the AFC East. That's what people forget. He out there going up against the Bubs in New England. Like this ain't the Patriots. We got some dogs out here in the South. We be fighting. 3 teams almost made it to the playoffs last year in the AFC South. A lot of people don't understand that. It's a dogfight down here. It's a dogfight. All right, but now I gotta shout out to Austin in the elite chat. I gotta go play the piano 1,000 miles. I told him I'd do that when I end the stream, so
Right.
I'll let y'all hear it, but y'all won't see it on stream, so y'all missing out. But appreciate y'all for tuning in. We out.